Hari Om Swamiji. Thank you.
Hari Om.
And
Namaste.
Hari Om. Thank you, Sujana and Suresh, for the wonderful singing.
Beautiful.
Swamiji requested for a Murugan song, Skanda Shashti, just as he was requesting, you started the song. I didn't even.
Yes.
So
I asked for Shri Valli Devasena Pate. But anyway, very nice. Oh. Om Sahana
No, we're
Bhavatu.
doing our lecture.
She wanted to go for LLB or something.
I think somebody's microphone is on.
Please, everybody mute.
Yeah, go ahead, announce.
Please, everybody, please mute your microphones.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Samasta Janakalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Vasudev Vasutam Devam Kamsa Chanunamardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Krupatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam Shadanana Kumkumaraktavarnam Mahamatim Divyamayura Vahanam Rudrasya Sutam Surasainyanatham Guham Sadaham Sharanam Prapadye Om Sharavana Bhavaya Namaha. We are seeing the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. In this beautiful chapter, Bhagavan Shri Krishna is presenting to us knowledge. And knowledge is that what Shankaracharya ji says, Tadjnanam prashamakaram yadindriyanam. Knowledge is that which quietens our senses. If knowledge makes us more active and rajasic, then that is not spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge quietens one's own senses and especially mind. It makes mind silent and it makes the intellect pensive. Bhagavan says, Jnanam teham savijnanam vakshyami ahamasheshataha yajñatva neha bhuyonyata jnatavyam avashishyate. Arjuna, I shall present to you both knowledge and wisdom. And knowing this, there remains nothing else to be known. So there has to be a absolute acme of knowledge. And thus, the definition of Vedanta is not just that which is at the end of Vedas, but Vedanam antim nirnayah iti Vedanta. So, Vedanta is the ultimate nirnay, Vedanam antim nirnaya, of all that is to be known in the four Vedas. It is the final thought which is to be known, and that is our own self. We go from the Bahya Prapanch to the Vyashti Prapanch to the Sukshma Prapanch, and beyond the Prapanch as none other than our own nature of awareness, going from the external pluralistic world to the fivefold matter envelopment of this equipment, to the subtle fivefold matter of mana buddhi chitta hankar, and the light of light which is beyond it. That light, tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati, that light which lights everything else, and that absolute is what is referred to as knowledge. Tad eva jnanam. Now, if that is the knowledge, then yesterday I went through great explanation about what is vijnanam, to find that absolute over here in this entire world of relative phenomenon which appears in front of us. And that is what we discussed yesterday. We discussed the absolute as Shuddha Brahma, and if at all anything exists as an experience of, or if anything on the outside is experienced, then the experiencer experiences the objects, and what is united is the experience. So Triputi exists in the world of duality: the experiencer, the experienced, and the experience which unites. The seer, the seen, and the act of seeing. And in this dualistic world, if an object exists, if a seer exists, and if the experience exists, then somebody has created this object to be experienced. And we call that none other than Karan Brahma. And what is experienced is none other than Karya Brahma. So the Karan Brahma and Karya Brahma, Bhagavan further will explain in the upcoming shlokas today itself. From shloka 2, we saw shloka number 3. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam vekti tattvataha. So Bhagavan, we saw this yesterday, is the glory of Jnanam. And Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschit yatati siddhaye. So what is presented over here is, out of sahasreshu, thousands, kaschit, one rare, puts forth the effort to know. And of thousands who put forth effort, one comes to realize it. So what is mentioned over here is, very few have moksha ichha, is what is presented over here. Majority of us are caught up in artha kama. Out of the 4 purusharthas of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, the artha kama are the ones where people are caught up in. Artha, acquiring wealth and objects. Kamana, desires. Fulfillment of the desires and acquisition of objects. And upon acquiring them, preserving them, yoga and kshema, Bhagavan calls it in the 9th chapter. Majority of us are caught up in this. Thus, there is no desire to know higher. Thus, Bhagavan says, who thinks about the Shuddha Brahman? Who thinks about Karan Brahma as Ishvara? And who thinks about the Karya Brahman as the created world? One little pin we order from Amazon, the package will be this much. That poor Bhuma Devi has to deal with the garbage that we create for one little pin. So there is no intelligence at the level of living. One may be intelligent, but they don't write it down that if I go to a grocery store, I can easily pick up over there rather than a click and it arrives. Yes, wealth is there, money is there in the pocket to order, but to think along the lines that one little thing which adds some comfort to my life adds so much discomfort to the Karya Brahma. The Karya Brahma is the pluralistic world in front of us. It is Brahman. So that type of understanding is not employed. One may have PhDs and so many higher degrees, but it really means nothing if it does not transform us in living. And Bhagavan wants us to transform. He wants us to transform our living. So very few have moksha ichha. And to have moksha ichha, necessarily one has to live the path of dharma. And if one tries to live the life of dharma, then the arthakamas will go down and that becomes difficult to deal with. Thus, Bhagavan says, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye. Most of us are caught up in artha and kam. And even if moksha ichha is there, not very many people know the path to moksha. There are so many people who have a sincere desire to know. There is no guru, no shastra available. Thus, that also becomes difficult. Bhagya is not available. So many people go to India in search of nirvana. You go to Kashi or Rishikesh, it'll be filled with foreigners. So difficult, they don't know any of our Indian languages. Go to Tiruvannamalai, in Ramanashram, filled with foreigners. Some of them copying Ramana Maharshi ji, wearing a langot and walking around. That will not do anything. So it is not available. Bhagya is not there. Shravanayapi bahubiryo na labhyaha. Shrunvantopi bahavo yamna vidyuhu. Ascharyo vakta kushalasya labdha. Ascharyo jnata kusalanushishtaha. Kathopanishad says Shravanayapi bahubiryo na labhyaha. This is not available for even hearing. Ascharyo vakta, wonder of wonder, is a speaker of Brahma Vidya. Because the subjective realization has to be objectified in language with words utilizing Shruti without objectifying the subject. And it has to be done in such dexterity that the student, on the other hand, receives the objective language, discards the objective language, and holds on to the subjective subtle matter and turns it into a subjective reality. Very difficult. Wonder of wonder is the Vakta of Brahma Vidya. And greater wonder, Upanishad says, is a student. That student who arrives, who gets it, is wonder. And wonder of wonder is a student who arrives in front of a right teacher but misses it, doesn't get it. That is also the greatest wonder. Having acquired Shrotriya Brahmanishta Guru, and the mind and intellect were not prepared for the subjective reality to dawn. Thus, over here, Bhagavan says, Kaschit yatati siddhaye. Yatatam api siddhanam kaschin mam vetti tattvataha. Rare knows me exactly the way it is to be known, Yathartha Darshan, as presented by the teacher with the medium of language. Yet the medium of language is tossed out by the student, and the subject matter, Brahman, Shuddha Brahman, is taken up. Thus, it is difficult. Now, Bhagavan is getting ready to present to us Jnanam and Vijnan. Bhagavan is making it very easy. This is one of the most beautiful chapters of Bhagavad Gita. Because Bhagavan presents Vijnan to know him in all that we are and all that we do. That same Shuddha Brahma Paratpara Ram, Kama, that Bhagavan Ram, who manifests as Srimad Dasharathanandana Ram, Kausalya Sukhavardhana Ram, that Lord Rama, who is Shuddha Brahma Paratpara Ram, he made it so easy in his transaction, in his teachings, in his love for everyone. So when we contemplate upon what is Jnanam and what is Vijnanam, this chapter makes it very easy. The main teaching of chapter 7 starts from shloka 4 up to 12. So 4 to 12 is the main theme of chapter 7. Bhumirapo nalo vayuhu khammano buddhirevacha ahankariti iti yamme Bhinna prakriti rashtadha. So Bhagavan says, Bhumihi, Apaha, Analaha, Vayuhu, Kham. These are the Pancha Mahabhutas, the five great elements. Bhumi, the grosser most earth. Then Apaha, going from grosser to the subtle most. So the grossest earth, then subtler than earth, the pervasiveness of water is more than earth, and then the pervasiveness of fire is greater than the water element, analaha. Then vayu is even more pervasive, and more pervasive than vayu is kham, akasha tattva. In this way, from grossest to the subtlemost, five elements are talked about. So these five elements. Then manaha, mind, which is even subtler, because it is through mind we understand what Akash Tattva is. So mind has to be subtler than Akash. Akash meaning space. So mind is subtler than the fifth element called space, Subtler than the mind is buddhi, because the buddhi even objectifies the emotions and feelings. So buddhi is subtler than mind. And so five elements: mana, mind; buddhi, intellect; and then ahankar, ego. Ego even owns up the buddhi. It says ego knows what it knows and ego knows what it does not know. And ego puts a copyright on it. So it's my knowledge. So ego is the one which owns up, puts that copyright, all those things. So ego is subtler. And then even buddhi, mana, buddhi, ahankar, itiyam me bhinna prakriti ashtadha. This is my eightfold form of prakriti. My creation, Arjuna, exists as this eight form. The five great elements: mind, intellect, and ego, which objectifies the one before it. The mind objectifies five elements, the buddhi objectifies mind and the five elements, and the ego objectifies the buddhi, the mana, and the five elements. This is the grosser to the subtlemost form of my, over here, Bhagavan is saying that this is my Prakriti. Prakriti Ashtadha. Now, I am going to go ahead and take up shloka number 5, and then we will see both of them together. Because to complete the thought, I need shloka number 5. Apareyamitastvanyam prakrutim viddhi me param jiva bhutam mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat. So Bhagavan is saying that this form of Prakriti is inferior Prakriti. Apare, Bhagavan is saying, apara yam, this, Prakritim viddhi. You come to know this Prakriti as the lower one. So this is the inferior, different from the higher. Jiva bhutam mahabaho ya yayedam dharyate jagat. Bhagavan is saying that my para prakriti, param, jiva bhutam, of the very life principle. He mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat. Yaya, by which idam, this jagat dharyate, this whole world is upheld. So in this shloka, Bhagavan presents two prakritis. One is a lower prakriti and one is a higher prakriti. Bhagavan says, apareyamiyam ita. And then different from this lower is the higher. So which one is he referring to lower? So what is mentioned in shloka number 4, that is considered to be lower prakriti. And the higher prakriti is that which is the life principle, the divine spark of awareness, consciousness, because of which this whole jagat, yayedam dharyate jagat, the whole world is upheld by it. Okay, now please listen, for this is not over here. I want to present these two shlokas comprise the entire Vedanta philosophy. Not just Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta philosophy. Yesterday I had mentioned Hinduism is not a polytheistic, it is not a monotheistic. Hinduism is monastic. That means Hinduism only believes in the principle of existence. That's it. It believes in the principle of existence, which is self-aware. So that existence which is aware of its own existence. So it is conscious, and its awareness of its self-existence is not a burden to itself. Thus, it is Ananda principle. It is existence, awareness, which is not a burden. So it is blissful existence. And for how long? Anantam. For infinitude. So these are the 4 Swarup Lakshanas of Brahman. It is existence, it is awareness, it is blissful existence, presence, and this presence is not a temporal existence, it is timeless. It is not bound by time, it is Anand, infinite. This absolute, like I was saying yesterday, is called Shuddha Brahma, and it can never ever manifest. This existence ever is. Because the minute it manifests, it becomes limited. And the minute it becomes limited, it cannot be absolute. So this is considered to be para, absolute. But if at all anything exists, or if anything is experienced, then something has to be the cause. But this existence always has been, so only it can be the cause. So as cause, it becomes Karan Brahma. I know this is little bit technical, but you're going to have to bear with it. If you understand this, Bhagavad Gita will become an easy sale. And love for Bhagavan dawns. Because we will know who Bhagavan is then. So I realize this is little bit difficult, but bear with it. Try to understand it. Okay. So if at all creation comes, where can it come from? If anything exists, it has to come from another existence. Non-existence can never give birth to existence. So Brahman already is existence. So only Brahman can be the cause. So now Brahman becomes a cause. Cause for what? Cause for this Bhumi, Rapo, Anala, Vayu, Kham, Mano, Buddhi, Ahankar, this eightfold Prakriti, Ashtadha Prakriti, where does it come from? It comes from Brahman. And thus in 5th shloka, Bhagavan says, Aparam Iyam. This is lower Brahman. This is this eightfold Prakriti, the cause is Brahman. So Brahman alone is the cause, and this has come out, and I'm experiencing the effects. Actually, if we study Atma Bodha and Tattva Bodha, the 5 elements in their original nature exist as tanmatras. And then there is Panchi Karanam going on, pentamorous mutual combination, recombination, which creates the sthul Jagat, the sthul gross earth, gross world, gross water, gross fire, gross air, gross space. They come from the subtle tanmatras. So all this has come from Brahman alone. Brahman becomes the cause. And as cause, when the effects which are seen and experienced by all of us, Bhagavan refers to these as lower. But remember the definition of Brahman: existence, consciousness, bliss, and infinitude. So existence principle gave birth to the world of objective reality as objects are. The watch is, the phone is, the camera is, the computer is, the lights are, the earth is. So everything is. But in me, awareness is. So the buddhi, which is, it was just mentioned over here that it is lower prakriti, that means it is matter. This matter of my intellect expresses awareness principle. It is a special type of matter. That matter, it is not like the objective reality of the 5 elements, but it is a special matter which reflects the awareness principle as I am. And that I am lends the awareness to, oh, I am Buddhiman, I am emotional, I am Indian, I am perceiving this time and the event which is unfolding. So I am. This is the consciousness principle. It is reflected in this subtle matter. Nonetheless, it is matter. Bhagavan calls this Binna Prakriti Ashtadha, and then he says it is lower Prakriti. Apara iyam itaha. To anyam Prakriti param. But other than this is the para Prakriti. And what is that? Jiva Bhuta Mahabaho. In the Bhuta, in the elements, Jiva, the expression of life, awareness. In this matter, what reverberates as I am. Even that dog, when it sees the owner coming in the evening, it wags the tail and recognizes, he's my master. But if the FedEx guy comes, the dog barks. It doesn't recognize him as the owner. So even in the animal kingdom, the awareness reverberates as I am, and it recognizes my master. The birds are capable of mimicking sounds. It's a fantastic world born out of the principle of awareness, which puts the eightfold Prakriti into motion. The eightfold creation all of a sudden now becomes alive. At no point in time, anything is dead on this planet. Even the listless mountain, Himalaya, is a father of Prakriti Devi. Parvati's father is Himal Parvat. She finds her dwelling in matter. So Prakriti resides in matter. That is why the Puranic stories are not some ridiculous stories. It makes sense. Uma Haimavati Parvati is a daughter of Sthanu, a Parvat. She is, after all, none other than the matterfold creation. But she's wedded to what? Purusha. Who is Purusha? Shiv. Without Shiv, she's Shava. She's a dead existence. But married to Shiva, she becomes life. She is the food principle that dwells in the city of knowledge as Kashi. Because after all, it is food for thought. It is not just food which keeps the body alive. It is thought which keeps the awareness burning. It's not an accident that she ends up as Annapurna in the city of knowledge. Something has to fuel knowledge. And she, wedded to her husband, is the greatest fuel. The fuel is Shiva Tattva. And that gives comfort. Knowing that I am above all this is the greatest comfort. It is a city of knowledge, and yet people go over there to die, to become immortal. To realize that death is only of the matterfold. It's a unique city of knowledge, wisdom, food, and death, all rolled up in one. This is only possible when the dead matter, when it is brought to the banks of river Ganges to put on the funeral pyre. After all, what is going in there is Bhumi Rapo Nalo Vayu Kham Mano Buddhi Ahankar. That is all. Chaitanya is not going in the funeral pyre. Gangaji can only wash off impurities of the equipment, but the divine purity of I am as Vishwanath, that can never be washed. It is forever pure. Thus, she sits on the very Vishwanath and purifies the entire Prakriti, but Shiva, she cannot purify because he is already pure. I'm combining various Puranas and stories and knowledge for easily palatable what is so difficult to understand as Vedanta. The same solid knowledge and wisdom appears in the 18 Puranas of Vyas Maharshi Ji. And this Rahasya of Kashi is to be understood as Vedanta. What dies is the lower Prakriti. And what stays alive is the higher Para Prakriti, which is Jiva Bhutam Mahabaho. It is the conscious principle. And that conscious principle is to be known as me. That is to be digested. That is the annam to be had. And only then we become Purna. Thus, Jiva Bhutam Mahabaho Yaya Idam Jagad Dharyate. Thus, he is known as Vishwanath, the Lord of the whole universe. Because only Para Prakriti can uphold Apara Prakriti. Okay, now we will see the difference between Para and Apara Prakriti, the higher and the lower. If you have pencil, you can write it down. You can create a table. It will help you understand. Para being Shuddha Brahman. Apara being lower Brahman. That's all. And the lower Brahman is known as Prakriti. And the higher Brahman is known as Absolute or Purusha. So we have that same absolute Shuddha Brahman, which is Apara Prakriti. Okay. So the first point about Para Prakriti, it is Chetan. It is awareness. And Apara Prakriti, the eightfold matter envelopment, it is Achetan. It doesn't express life. It is matter. This is the first point. That is Chetan. The second point is Para Prakriti, it is Nirguna, qualityless. And the lower Prakriti, the eightfold Prakriti, it is Saguna, it is with qualities. This is a second point. The third point, the higher one, Brahman, Para Prakriti, it is Nirvishesha. That Nirvishesha, it is not, it is homogeneous. It is not divided into parts. It cannot go through change. Changeless, nirvishesha. And the lower prakriti is savikar. Savikar, huh? Savikar meaning it goes through vikar. Nirvishesh or nirvikar. Nirvikar, it does not go through modification. Okay. So higher does not go through modification. That's why it has never taken birth. That's why it is monastic. It alone is. But if it appears to be something, then it is a lower, and the lower is an appearance. And I will come to that. It is only an appearance. That is Upanishad. That's why it is called Maya. There is no actual existence of the lower 8 form. Then the higher is Satyam. It is. And it is Swatantra. It is independent. The lower is Paratantra. It depends on Brahman for its existence. That's why in 5th shloka, Bhagavan says, Yayeyam dharyate jagata. I become the upholder of the entire 8-fold form of creation. So if we remember this, we will be able to understand basic differences between Para Prakriti as Shuddha Brahman and Apara Prakriti, the lower, as the 8-fold form of creation. Now, this entire world, Upanishads say that if Jagat is there, then Brahman alone can become the cause of Jagat. That's why I said that same Brahman becomes the Karan of this Jagat. And if this Jagat is there, that same Brahman, when it becomes the cause, that cause is referred to as Karan Brahman, and that Karan Brahman is also referred to as Ishvara. A new title is given to Brahman. As Ishvara, he becomes the Lord of the universe. So now 3 things come out: Jiva, the embodied soul; Jagat, world; and Ishvara. So 3 things are all born from Brahman, Jeev, Jagat, and Ishwar, for experience to happen. So all of a sudden, from this one, 3 things come out: Jeev, Jagat, and Ishwar. The Trigunatmika Maya is born. The 3 gunas which are inherent from the Sattvic guna of Maya is born Ishvara. The Tamo guna, matter, is born. And Rajo guna, the Jivas are born. This is how the whole world comes out. This is all part of Jnanam. This is what Bhagavan is teaching as Jnanam. This is knowledge. So that same Bhagavan has become, quote unquote, is the cause of this. Now, if one and one alone is a cause of everything, when we say that a pot maker makes a pot from clay utilizing the wheel. So he spins the wheel, puts the clay, and he shapes the clay pot. So we have a clay pot, we have a pot maker, and we have instrument. So the instrument is called the instrumental cause. The clay is called the material cause. And the pot maker is called the intelligent cause or the efficient cause. Three are there: the material cause, instrumental cause, and the efficient cause. And the effect is a clay pot. But over here, the instrumental cause, the material cause, and the efficient cause, all three are one and only one, Brahman. And if one thing is all three causes, then the effect which is produced has to be an illusion. How? I'll give you an example. You go to bed and you sleep and you have a dream. Oh, I am going to Hawaii. So your mind in the dream purchases a ticket to Hawaii, goes to the airport, sits in the United Airlines, flies to Hawaii, rents a car, goes to the hotel, cleans up, eats dinner, sleeps, wakes up the next day, goes on to the mountain to see the volcano, and goes very close, and that volcano erupts. And you get scared and start running, and you trip over a rock and you fall down, and you wake up in your bed, broken out in sweat. Now, in your dream, your mind purchased ticket. Your mind was United Airlines. Your mind was Honolulu. Your mind was the hotel. Your mind was the adventure. Your mind was the volcano. And your mind, which is the volcano, decides to erupt in front of you alone. And your mind scares you in your dream, and you fall down and you wake up. The dream is called Manomaya Jagat. Everything is the mind in the dream. So if one and only one thing is the material cause, efficient cause, and instrumental cause, the effect is called dream. Now imagine Brahman has a dream. We are all in Brahman's dream. We are all Narayana's mind, actually. And that is why moksha is possible. Otherwise, it would be impossible. We are already him to begin with. Each and every single one of us is the mind of Narayana. Our waking state is his dream state. That is why Inception movie, if you understand Mandukya Upanishad. It's a dream intercepted in the dream. And there are multiple time, space dimensions, because the timeline of your dream is very different. You don't say, oh, let me just start creation in your dream. I will first start with space, then air, then fire, then water, then the 9 planets. You don't do that. You just start projecting. This is how dream works. But explanation has to be given to a student who inquires, what is this world? So the teacher has to come up with a way to explain. So the lower Prakriti is actually some type of explanation given. But how can you explain a dream? It just is. But you cannot give that as an answer to a inquisitive student. So deliberate superimpositioning is done on the created world, prapancha, and then desuperimpositioning is done, and what remains is Shuddha Brahma. This is solid Vedanta. This is in 2 shlokas, Bhagavan has packed knowledge, Jnanam. All Upanishads have come together over here. Now, Vijnanam is the easy part. Once we know this, then we have to apply. If I know that my mind, my intellect, and this created world is all Brahman, why don't I treat it like Brahman? That is Vijnana. Bhagavan teaches us how to treat the prapanch as though it is Brahman. And in there lies our mukti. That is transformation. When we take this and apply. Otherwise, this knowledge means nothing. It will be some added burden. अरे उपनिषद तो हमने पढ़ लिया, चलो. अरे वो उपनिषद पढ़ा था, वो भी एक बड़ी बेवकूफी है. That is also utter stupidity if we don't practice it. It will be shameful to tell somebody I have studied Upanishad, but there is zero conduct in our living. Thus, Bhagavan stresses Jnanam Savijnanam Vakshyami Aham Asheshataha. I will explain this to you. Now Bhagavan starts explaining the application of it. That is beauty. That is Vijnan adds a stroke of beauty in our life. That's why Shankaracharya ji says, Tad jnanam prashamakaram yadindriyanam. When knowledge arrives and when it is put into action, it nobilizes our living. We look beautiful because our karma adds a layer of dignified makeup in living. We will continue that tomorrow. I promise tomorrow onwards, it's much easier, okay? Today was a little heavy dose of Vedanta. What to do? It is a subject matter. Jnanam and Vijnanam. So Vijnanam is actually easy once we understand Brahman. So one and only one, if it is the instrumental cause, material cause, efficient cause, if all this is one and only one, the effect which is produced is illusion. Thus, creation in Hinduism is referred to as Maya. Ya mas, what is there, which is seen, Ya ma sa maya. That which is, but which is not, in reality is maya. Thus, it is illusion. Remember the dream state. Only when you wake up, you realize you're dreaming. In the same way, only when we realize the absolute, we realize, aha, ha, 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 I've been taken for a ride for innumerable births. How did I get caught up in this? Only in realization, we will realize it. Until then, we are going to have to do satsang. We'll continue our satsang tomorrow. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om.
We'll wait for the Vijnanam tomorrow.
Yes, will be much easier.
So we'll all go into a dream state and try to figure out what's going on.
Or re-listen this pravachan.
Thank you.
That's all, Swamiji. So tomorrow again, please join us at 7:45. We'll start with bhajans and 8 o'clock we'll start the pravachan.
Okay.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.